Hello everyone, this is In-Game Art with a little boxing and an offline product game review. This is Potionomics, the Masterwork edition for the PlayStation 5. To jump right into it, this physical copy here comes with the update version 1.3.0 run on the disc, but sadly there wasn't an update available. This update size was 815 megabytes big and will take you to version 1.8.0 since the time I make this video. Now, like always, I play all my games completely offline with an unregistered account, and I claim my experience was flawless, but I did beat the game and finished it. And as well, I was still unlocking trophies with my unregistered account. Now, to go into the game, this was my first time ever experience of the game, so I wasn't 100% sure what the experience was going to entail completely. But I knew the game had a little bit more of a resource management, a card kind of battler kind of system, as well as that I knew that the game was like a bit of a visual novel kind of experience. And while I did enjoy the overall flow and the aesthetic of the game, I think the artistic designs and the cutesiness of it, as well as the characters' writing and somewhat the story. Well, the story is your better brother. Your main character inherits a potion shop. You get your uncle's debt problems, and you have to pay off your debt. There you go. That's pretty much the base structures of the story. And as you progress through the game, you slowly make off these competitions to pay off the payment, and as slowly you meet characters throughout the adventure. And as you meet these characters, you can either build close friendship or romance partners, and so on and so forth. So that's pretty much your straightforward experience of the game. The overall aesthetic of the game, the graphics, the overall characters and the presentation, as well as their mouth movements, their eye motions, the overall cutesiness and presentation of the game is just, I think, marvelous. And even the 2D artworks on the animations and stuff like that are very appealing. I'm just really stunned at how well this game looks and plays in terms of its artistic design. And it's what I generally prefer the most. I'm not a big fan of hyper-realistic graphics. I prefer games that are focusing on more of an art style or a experience that's a little bit more to the imagination to the player. Now, I do want to point out the slew of problems I had with the game. And I have an entire thing to list off here. I probably don't have it all because there was a little hiccups here and there, but I kind of just left some of them off and mostly focused on the bigger ones. First off, you're going to notice that voice acting and lip syncing is sometimes completely off or just slightly off. Not the big of a deal. That is somewhat nitpicking, but as long as you don't pay attention to the lips, it's not that big of an issue, but it's still odd to see. As well as that, disappointingly, the game can have a bit of a small font. Basically, the lettering and text and stuff like that can be pretty small if you're far away from the screen at certain moments. And there's even moments where the font overlaps other fonts in the certain menus in the game. It's very few, but it is apparent in the game that you will see font overlapping another, which is very odd. As well as that, after you've played the game for quite a while and you get back to the main menu of the game and you hit the continue button, the game has this slow interaction before it finally registers you hit continue on the actual main screen. You'll feel like nothing's happening, but eventually it will click and say, hey, you hit continue. That could be a little bit annoying, especially if you're trying to figure out why is it just standing there. Next off, careful if you go to like the end of the day. This is a one-click button press. So if in the main menu you have a certain amount of time before the end of the day, or you could just go straight to the end of the day. You can hit end of the day by accident and it immediately ends your day. And there's no like, are you sure or anything, or you still have some time left, are you sure you want to go to bed early? There's none of that. So make sure you save often and don't accidentally click end of the day because it does not give you any warning. It just immediately ends the day. Next up, this is a very disappointing one, but again, this is more of a cosmetical problem. In the game, later on, you'll be able to improve your shop, where you can add like more new flooring, new walling, and so on and so forth. Mostly cosmetical appearances. Sadly, though, anytime you change any cosmetical appearance and like you reload the save or anything like that, it resets all your cosmetical appearances for your shop back to the default. So your shop is going to constantly look like a rundown shop. that is disappointingly, but again, that's just cosmetic. It has no effect to the game. The other cosmetic stuff, like changing your cauldron, changing the potion shelves and stuff like that, or aging barrels, those will all stay. Those actually do affect gameplay. So thankfully, those don't reset. It's just a cosmetical appearance. So you can't change the walling, you can't change your flooring and stuff like that. So that's very disappointing, but at least it's just cosmetic. Next up, there's a few times the cursor will disappear during the card battler in the game. No, thankfully this isn't a big issue. All you do is just hit circle and it brings the cursor back. I've never had it like lock up during combat, not combat, but it's more haggling. You're haggling, trying to build up more value for your potion, and you're using cards to rank up the value of the potion. Well, occasionally when you issue out a card, the button that allows you to select the next card won't appear. I've always hit circle and it always reappeared. So don't freak out about that, but it is a little annoying that occasionally it will disappear and you have to hit circle to get the cursor to reappear over a card. Next one, this one, when you're like at a main menu of a certain like vendor or something like that, there was a few times where there is no cursor at all, or if I'm customizing my deck, there's sometimes the cursor will disappear as well and you can't navigate. I've always just hit circle, just like in the card battler or haggling moment, and you back out to the main menu and then go back into it and it brings the cursor back. Thankfully, this didn't happen too often, but it was noteworthy and it was annoying that it constantly disappeared. Now, also, here's a little extra bit. Every day, the game re-rolls like the events of the day. So, like, these particular potions are worth more, or these potions cost more, or these ingredients cost less to buy or cost more to buy. If for whatever reason you're hoping for a good day, if you save it right at the start of the day, you can exit out and reload it, and it resets re-rolls the events of the day. So if you can just keep on back out, reload, and you can eventually just roll out a good outcome for yourself, or more of an interesting value. Like if you have a bunch of potions you want to sell, you can keep reloading the day until it says, hey, potions are now in high demand. You can sell them at a higher price. So that's a way you can abuse it as well. And as well as you can do this with potions. So if you are brewing a potion and it says it has a chance to give you 2 stars or get a star, you can just before you brew out the potion, save it, then brew out the potion, and if you get 1 star or no stars, reload it and then do it again. You can eventually re-roll it constantly until you can get a 2-star potion. So hey, that's very helpful if you're struggling in the game. Next up, some reason there is a basement in the game, and there's really no reason to interact with the basement other than to do some minor customization. But what was weird is that sometimes when you go down in the basement, the game will re-trigger dialogue events, and sometimes this can be bad depending. But for the most part, it didn't like lock up the game, and you could just redo your dialogue options. It's just it restarts the dialogue of that day or the last dialogue you recently have. The only problem one is that if you do traversal and you dialogue exchange with a shop vendor and then you go back and you go down a basement, for some reason you'll do that. It'll sometimes restart this dialogue, and then next time you'll find yourself back out traversing, which costs you time of your day. This only happened once throughout my experience of this costing me time of my day, but it's really annoying, and for some reason it only happens in the basement. The only benefit is there's little to no reason to go down in the basement in the game. Next up, occasionally voice acting will cut out where the characters will be talking and you can tell there's supposed to be more dialogue, and it's not like the voice actors stop doing their dialogue. It's just you can hear that like they're in mid dialogue of a word or a sentence and immediately the audio cuts out. This is very few and far between, but it was noteworthy and very weird how it just randomly happens. Now, here's the bigger one. I did have one soft lock, or basically kind of a freeze up. Remember when I was talking about how the cursor would disappear? I did have one time when I was visiting the guild, the Adventures Guild, and I was sending out an expedition to gather some resources. The cursor disappeared, but I couldn't navigate anymore, and I couldn't even hit the circle button to back out because I was in a process of doing something, and for whatever reason, it wouldn't allow me to do anything. I couldn't back out, I couldn't navigate. The only thing I could do was hit the PlayStation button, close out the application, and reload my save, and go back and do it, and it didn't lock up. That was the only time I had the game actually lock up and freeze up, preventing me from progressing. Now, next up is sometimes, while I do love the animations, the facial animations, the characters, the voice acting, sometimes their facial animations can be a little awkward, a little weird, and off-putting at times. For the most part, this is far and very uncommon, but for the most part, there are some awkward face animations here and there. And that's about it. Like I said, there are a few other ones I can even think of on top of my head, like the timer to tell me when the next competition is going to be appearing didn't all the way come all the way down. There was a few other little nitpicks and everything, but those ones I mentioned were the main ones, and that plagued throughout the entire game of my experience. Throughout the experience, I only actually had one soft lock. Most time, I just could be able to hit the circle button, back out, and go into it, and it didn't affect anything. And that's about it. Now, for my overall experience of the game, I did enjoy the game. I thought the voice acting, the writing, the characters, the overall potion creating, the card battling, the haggling, was all really good. I really liked building my deck. I really liked making my potions to try to sell them and everything like that, and then haggle to raise the price. It was all really good, and I really liked the characters. The only real problem I had was that the competition, you have to prepare a certain amount of potions for the competition, and you only have 9 days per competition of that week, if you will. To me, 9 days isn't a lot of time, and I really had next to no free time to interact and dialogue with myself with the main character cast of the group. So it was really disappointing, because that was definitely the harder, like the glowing part of the game. Interacting with the characters and building up relationships with them. I had little to no free time to do this, which made me had an existential crisis, because it's like reality. I'm so busy trying to make potions and sell and make money that I don't got time in real life make romance or find love or anything like that. So it was like real life. It's like, oh no, I'm working so much. I don't got time to go outside and make friends or find romance. It just made me laugh, because it's like, oh no, the video game's like real life. But I just felt like there could have been more time. I wish there was probably like maybe 12 days before the main event, maybe more. I don't know. It's just, I can see some people getting frustrated that they feel like they're being rushed. They don't got time to take the game at a little bit more slower pace. Now, the game does have a lower, easier difficulty, but it doesn't change the amount of time you have before the next competition. So I can see some people getting a little frustrated with that. And that's pretty much it. The other little maybe complaint I can say is the final competition. I don't want to give any spoilers, but it was a lackluster, a little underwhelming for the last main event thing that was happening. I don't want to give a spoilers for what happens, but it felt a little underwhelming. But thankfully, when you do beat the game, you do unlock endless mode, where it reloads your last save, and you can be able to play without no time limit. You can just interact and exchange and everything like that, which is nice, but they kind of lose the overall edge of the drive, if you will, because now you've already done everything. Now you can just make potions and talk with everyone. For the most part, I had fun with this game. I thought the visual presentation, the music, the characters, the voice acting, and even the writing was all very, very good. And I do think it's well worth a look. I just wish this physical copy worked a lot better. And that's why I can see why I have to be a little harsh and call it a bad physical copy, because while my experience, I only had one technical soft lock, I can't guarantee that with you. I can't give you a guarantee that you won't have every menu lock up on you. Maybe I just got lucky, and I can't put my experience and say, well, I didn't have that, so you don't know what you're talking about. No. I'm reasonable. I understand that I could have gotten lucky. You could have a way worse experience, and I do wish this physical copy was better. Thankfully, it does have, as I said, it's version 1.3.0. I could only imagine what the game was like at vanilla at 1.0.0, but overall, I think it's well worth a look. If you can get it at a reasonable cheap price, not full price, or maybe if it becomes a collectible down the road, it may not be worth it, but the overall experience was good. Now, I do want to talk about this one bit here, and I know some people get very sensitive in this subject, and I can see some people talk about that they're hesitant to buy it because the game is labeled LGBTQ. Now, granted, that is because the main character is, again, female. There's nothing wrong with that. I actually thought Sylvia, which is the character you play as, is actually very charming. She has some sass to her. She's not a blank slate. That's not the problem. The problem is the game, of course, has, you can have lesbian, or homosexuality, which is nothing wrong with that. I'm not against that. But some people may feel like that's not the issue. They're more worried about, cringy writing or very aggressive presentation of characters and I don't want to use the word woke, but you get what I'm trying to say. No, there's none of that in the game. The game introduces all the characters really well, even the LGBTQ community. If you don't even want to interact with the person, the one character I think is a they, them category. They're not male or female. You don't have to be friends with them if you don't want to, or him, they, him. Sorry, I'm not very good with these things. I'm not trying to be rude. I'm just trying to say that you don't have to interact with they and them. You have to just buy ingredients from them, but you don't have to be friends with them if you don't want to be. But again, the homosexuality part, you don't have to do that. There's male characters if you prefer that, or the female characters are all very well written. Again, I'm not against the LGBTQ community. I just feel like the LGBT community for the AAA industry or Hollywood has done so much bad damage to these communities that people have now become very defensive or very sensitive to the topic. And it makes me sad because there's nothing wrong with these communities. There's nothing wrong with these subjects. It's just certain communities and certain individuals have done so much damage in this category that it makes me feel bad, because a game like this presents these characters very good, very well written, and again, you're not forced to deal with it if you don't want to. That's perfectly fine with me. I enjoyed the kitten pirates. I love the little mischiefs. I love the succubus demon girl trying to persuade me to join her pyramid scheme. I almost built a relationship with her. I just thought she was delightful. Now, I can probably agree that it's a little disappointed there's no Mel. You can't choose a male character. But again, I'm not that big of a deal. I understand that they getting voice acting, doing all the animations for both male and female, and voice acting to address a male and female character is not cheap and not easy. So I think they did a pretty good job with Sylvia. She is a good character, and she's interesting for who she is, and I liked all the other characters, even the LGBTQ characters that they introduced in the game. They all were very good, and I think this game is well worth and should be looked at if you want to introduce those kinds of characters in your game, and be mindful how to represent them in both a equal standing of that maybe I should one day make a separate video on this topic. But anyway, in the end, this is definitely well worth your looking to add to your shelf, both for any of the communities as well as the card battling, the ingredients, the slower pace, if you're really into visual novel and build up romance and dating characters. Again, this is all very good. I just wish this physical copy worked a lot better. And this video is already going on for way too long. Thank you all so much for watching. I will try to leave links down in the description if you're interested in the copy. It's entirely up to you. There is some issues. You might want to wait for a used copy or maybe get it cheap if you can. For the most part, I did beat it. I finished it, and I did enjoy it. I can see myself maybe later down the road pursuing the game again at a later date. So again, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next unboxing video. Bye-bye!